right. Hey, everybody. Chelsea here with the fabulous Chloe Horrex. We're here chatting. We're both co-authors of the upcoming book, Jaguar Medicine. Chloe is sharing this right now into her group as well. So excited to be here today. Hey, everybody. To Chelsea have here. The fabulous Chloe Horrex. We're here chatting. We're both. Oh my goodness. Okay, I just had to
close up in your there as well.
The background. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're all set. Yeah. Were you able to share it?
Not yet. Bear with us a second, guys, while we do this. Let's see how we go.
So yeah, while Chloe's doing that, as I was saying, we are just here to have a beautiful chat about our chapters, just about what's going on with each of us. And we're gonna just go back and forth and have a really beautiful conversation. I'm excited to hang out with you. We're in polar opposite parts of the world. I'm chilly over here. I wish I was wearing what you're wearing in the sun. It looks so beautiful.
So thank you for being here. I really wanted to bring through these interview series for myself to connect with other women, and also for us powerful medicine women of Jaguar book to actually come through and share our magic and our medicine for the world. And that really does come through you sharing your magic with your platform of Facebook and mine for ours, and really integrating that. And then also bringing all the people that really want to support us into our Jaguar Summit group. So would you like to share a little bit about your experience with the book, Chelsea?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I think I was one of the last, there's 30 authors, 30 co-authors of the book, of course, which is so incredible. And it was very late in the process that I joined the book. And it was just such a whirlwind. Everything happened so fast. 2 weeks to write a chapter. I'd never written anything published before. And I just dove in head first without even really thinking about it. That's so often the way that I make my decisions. If it feels right in my body, I go for it. And it was a little scary. It was like, what am I doing? But I had witnessed two close friends who had co-authored the previous book of Kiva Publishing, which is Sovereign. And so, just really watching the process. I celebrated with my close friend, Sonia, who co-authored Sovereign, and just the excitement of that. And I was even just thinking, like, I can't wait for that part, right? And now this is our week that we get to do this, which is so exciting, right? January 14th, we're about to release this beautiful book.
In just a couple of days, really, it has come up like this. And I remember, I thought I was one of the last, so you must have come in after me, because I remember Belle, who we've just had a conversation yesterday, she actually introduced this idea and this concept to me, and it was an epic manifestation for me. I'd been wanting to get into a book. I think a lot of people dream about having a book or writing their story, and it was very similar. It all sort of happened so quickly for me, in the sense of, here's the invitation, you either take it or you leave it. And and here we are, only a couple of months later.
Yeah, it just went so fast, but it was also such a smooth process, and you and I have talked about that before, how there's moments in our lives where, you just go for it and things just progress in the most beautiful way. And, when I first also agreed to do it, I never really thought beyond just that there was a chapter in a book. I didn't really consider the magic, like the multiplying magic that would come out of it, like really just the friendships, the connections, this beautiful, what is it called? 2 weeks after the book is released, our global summit, where we're all teaching master classes. It just becomes way more than a chapter in a book. It's like this whole beautiful experience that, you can just see how it will expand beyond this book. And so it's a thrill. It's really exciting.
It is. And I was just saying to Belle, she came and stayed with me for a couple of days, and we were just sharing all things creation. And I was really saying to her, I am so glad that I am publishing a book or a chapter in a book, but how amazing is it that 30 women are creating this book together in terms of like epic relationships and getting to meet amazing women that are all doing different things, but also all on the same path of changing and growing and being better versions of ourselves. But then the business side of things is we've got 30 women out sharing this epic book, which means that not only if I have a week off or I have a week of feeling under the weather or whatever, I've got 29 other women that are there celebrating and cheering and sharing the message. How great would that be if we could bring that into so many different businesses?
Oh, it's so expansive, right? And it's just such a beautiful community. And, just that there have been, I love seeing, because there's been so many previous books that have come out, and I love seeing that for some women, this is their third book, and some are going on to write their own books. And just the friendships and the networks that have been created, it is really incredible. And yes, I agree, just to have that be a model for, even just the spinoffs that have happened, with the interview series and, some of the other women that, we've gotten together to create, supportive networks where we can just really help to collaborate and witness one another at the stages that we're all at. Because of course, this is also a platform. It's a really incredible platform for us to just take wherever we are in our current state to the next level. And that, I don't know who said this to me when I started. I think it was my friend had written Sovereign, it's just like, you can't really even anticipate, but it is a jumping off point to the next level. And it's like, whoa, it's just, I'm glad it was only 2 weeks, because I feel like if I had more time to think about it, sometimes you kind of like put your foot on the brake a little bit, or, you try to slow it down. And because this was just like, okay, get your chapter in, edit it. It just happened so fast that it's like, you don't have a chance to really question it or worry or think, what did I just do?
Which is also great, because you don't have time to think, which means that, we all know that when we're having a very passionate or exciting conversation, you say stuff and then at the end you go, wow, that was really profound. Where did that come from? So yeah. I actually felt the same. I felt so pressured, healthy pressure to get the thing out, that I didn't overthink it at all. Now that it's getting ready to be released, there's so much coming up.
I know.
It's okay. I'm trusting that whatever comes through is perfect. So yeah.
Oh, same here, because I really shared, I shared my story, right? Like the story that I don't often share. This is the story that, so much of it is, for so long I held with shame and I didn't talk about. And so for me, it was really like this. So it's Jaguar Medicine, fierce feminine. Do you remember the tagline? Fierce feminine frequency keepers, birthing the new earth, I think is what it is. It's a line.
Something along those lines, yeah. Powerful women stepping into their power.
Yeah, so it's sharing that, right? And it's sharing these moments that are really, well, and I can't wait to read it, because it's all of our own unique perspectives on what fierce feminine, on what Jaguar Medicine means. And it was just really, for me, when I first connected into what that meant for me, it just came so quickly, this turning point moment in my life where I really felt like I stepped into that fierce frequency where I didn't have it for most of my life. I was, I was very shy. I was quite meek. I was kind of a doormat, people pleaser, right? Like I just really, but there was this moment in my life and I was like, okay, well, that's obviously what I'm going to write about, but it was very emotionally charged. There's a lot of, bearing it all and really releasing the shame that I had held for so long. So it was quite beautiful and liberating to write about it. And now it's like you can't, there's no going back. It's going to be out there.
Yeah. Very much, very, very much. It's the second time. I remember before I experienced medicine, which is actually what I talk about a lot in my chapter. Before I experienced plant medicine for the first time, someone said to me, just be ready, because there's no going back. The identity that you know yourself as now and who you're going to be are completely different. And this feels like the same, because we're releasing it now. And the excitement's here and now about this, but it's then going to be on Amazon. It's then going to be published. So it's out there
in the world, right? Like it's just, yeah, it's out there.
Yeah. And I love when Shannon was sharing, she was actually sharing about Amazon top, like leaderboard, I guess you could say. And she was saying that most people will go up to the top, you know, because you do the 99 cents, you bring everyone in, and then you get, you know, your, ideally, if everyone supports us, our title of top seller on Amazon. And then she said over the next week or two, people will just drop off and then someone new will come in. But then she said that with her Kiva Publishing and the books that have come through in the past, they stick to the top of the list for a long time, because we're all out there sharing it. There's 30 women sharing it with their friends and family, then they're sharing it, and the ripple effect of that. And because the stories are so profound and deep and vulnerable, the amount of charge and energy that is around this book really helps it stick up there, which is great, because then more people are seeing it, and more people are seeing that, well, if they're reading it, feeling that change, hopefully. Hopefully, for my perspective, hopefully more women and men, even if men are reading this, notice that it's okay to be vulnerable, and to actually realize, like you said, there's that point in time where you realize it's time to change. It's time for something to shift. Yeah. Is that your perspective of the book and like what you hope for, or is there some other vision that you have or desire for people that are reading it?
Oh, well, one of the underlying themes within my work and within my chapter is to just really own your story and to really, you know, claim all of who you are, that your scars, your, you know, the parts of you that, you know, or the things that have happened in your life that maybe you wish hadn't happened or that you hadn't done, right? Like the things that we can often regret. So it's this reclamation and the celebration of who we are, just in all of our magic. Like it's all magic, you know. There's this beautiful transformation in our stories when we just claim it all and we can just share it all. And so what's really beautiful is I felt like I was just kind of living that, right? Like, you know, the comeback has always been a really big part of my journey and my work, and just our ability to go through something really, you know, could be something just so life altering, so shattering, but that we can rebuild, like that we can actually come back from that stronger, wiser, more ready, and that we could handle anything. So it's, yeah, like I think that's the big thing for me about that. So this is really unfortunate timing. I just got a text from my daughter. She wants to come to my house and pick something up. So I apologize. I'm just going to go on mute for a second and handle that. And sure. I'll be right back. And maybe if you can just keep chatting, because otherwise she's going to show up. The dog's going to bark, and
okay.
I'm going to mute myself.
I'll talk to myself and anyone else. Yeah,
I'll be right back.
So anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Chloe, and I am passionate about all things energy work, mindset, personal development, growth. And when Chelsea comes back, we'll talk a little bit about the time in her life that really was the catalyst for change. And I really do believe that we all have this moment, especially a lot of people that are doing something for themselves, or anyone that's really taking action in life, or especially public speakers. Everyone hits this point where, whether it's a birth in the family, a death in the family, a massive car accident, a near-death accident, Sometimes it can be, for me, it was grief. So deep emotions. When we come out of that, the pit, we come out, we realize that that whole time that we were in the pit, it was actually time for us to really think seriously about what we're doing in this life. So when I came out of my pit of grief, I really started searching. I started searching for something that was going to support me. I felt so lost, so alone, so isolated through grief. And I really started looking around at my reality and noticed that I didn't have people that had me, people that have got you. Everyone wants someone that can be there for them through rain, hail, or shine. But I didn't have that. And that's when I started realizing there's something that's got to shift here. And for the first time in my life, I realized that it wasn't anyone else's fault or problem. It was my problem. Mm-hmm. It was my time to actually take responsibility and realize that me treating everyone else around me like rubbish when I felt like I wanted support and they weren't giving me support actually had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with me and my beliefs and what I thought should and shouldn't happen. And that's what really started my journey of the what's the saying, the crumbs, following the crumbs. Mm-hmm. You start taking those small little steps and start following the little crumbs, which started for me with going overseas, actually, which is quite a big crumb. I mean, from Australia to my first stop was Kuala Lumpur, and then across to Europe for this particular trip. And that was when I really started opening my mind up to law of attraction and manifestation and mindset and doing glass walks and arrow breaks and all these things that are really like, whoa. But the more you do those sort of things, the more you realize, what I thought was hard is actually not hard. So I would love to know, Chelsea, was there a time in your life where you were like you've said it before, do you want to dive into a little bit about what that time was where you really realized this is not happening anymore?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really connected to what you were, just saying about taking responsibility, because and it was the same thing. Like my life was a mess, right? Like it was kind of just floating through life by default. And this was, like about 10 or 12 years ago when I just realized like I was a new mom. That was the only thing about my life that I loved. I like being a mom. And that was, I think, the beautiful thing that really shook me awake, right? Like to have this baby and to realize like that's the only part of my life that I love. Everything else, I am deeply unhappy. I feel trapped. This was my career. It was my relationship. It was, even friendships. There was just so much that I was struggling with, but I chose it all. And that was the part that, was another really big turning point, was that realization that, okay, if I chose all of this, then I have the power to change it, to shift it.
Yeah.
And so I got into this, I jumped into this really beautiful coaching training. I was working as a naturopath at the time, and I went to school and trained for that in another country, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt with that. And I hated it. I mean, I love the philosophy of naturopathic medicine, but the actual career as it was at that point just felt very clinical and sterile. And, I felt like I was supporting people that just wanted a pill for everything, right? Where I wanted to get into the, what's going on in your mind? What's happening? I want to know about your relationships, your stress. I was obsessed with that. And literally same thing. I needed help with all of those things as well. And so I jumped into, it was called lifestyle design coaching. That was the type of coaching that I trained in. And it's really manifestation and law of attraction. It's the truth that you can, if you're not happy with your life, you can create it the way that you desire it to be. It might take time. You might have to burn certain things to the ground. I had all sorts of things that needed to become unraveled in order. And that was scary, right? To actually admit that I wasn't happy in my career and that I wanted to shift to doing what I'm doing now. That my relationship, even though, we tried and tried and tried it, this is not going to work and we need to end it. We need to move on. And so, yeah, like that was the turning point when I finally but then there were other things. And this is what I talk about in the book. And I talk a lot about the comebacks. I've had two major ones. So this was the first one. And I did start to take responsibility, but I also needed to learn a little bit more, right? And that was the second piece of really being able to stand up for myself. And that's where the fierce feminine part, the Jaguar Medicine that I talk about in my chapter is the moment that I really stood up for myself. Like I really, because when you are a people pleaser for most of your life, people take advantage and they're used to you being a certain way. And so it takes this huge amount of courage to break out of that. And that's what my chapter is all about, the moment that I did that. And, the beauty that came out of that, the fallout of that moment. But it was just really, life just got so much better from that one moment.
Wow. I'm just like, there's so many good things here to talk about. The one that comes to mind straight away is this notion of you have put yourself in this box. You had put yourself in this box, which I think is so huge for people to realize, like our beliefs, our work environment, our friend environment is the box that we put ourselves in. And so to take a step out of that box, it's so challenging because we not only are responsible for our own being, we're then also responsible for the communication and the relationships with those people, which leads me into the second point of how often is it that we assume that the person we're talking to or our best friend or sister, brother, person, whoever is the exact same person that they were yesterday.
Mm.
And this is, I think, what challenges so many of us because we assume, hate assuming, and we project our perception of who they are based on who they've been for years and years and years. And yet they might go through an absolute profound experience that, okay, like if it's a car accident or a health incident or something like that, usually, or near death, we'll take that on and we'll appreciate it. But what if it's something so minute? Maybe they find someone and they fell in love overnight and they're just like, whoo, beaming with love. Or maybe they had a medicine journey and they're now like profoundly aware of their body and their being or whatever it is, but it can't physically be seen.
Yeah.
And so we, as friends and family, keep projecting that. And that's where the communication part comes in, because that's where, I don't know if you've experienced, but I certainly have, where I've been embodied of who I be now, who I be today, who might be completely different to yesterday. And I've actually had to go up to people, which I'm happy to share about, and have conversations with to help them understand that I'm trying to be a better version of me. Would you like me to share?
Yeah, I would like to, please.
Two actually come to mind. One, the very first one was when I left to Europe. I'd come out of I was in grief, coming out of grief. I'd done 3 weeks over there, finishing up in Africa where I was volunteering with his orphanage kids for a few weeks. And I remember somewhere along that journey, it was a full-on few weeks of events and mindset and things. I remember talking to my sister, and bless her, love her, she's like my best friend. She said some comment about how I used to be as a kid and making a joke about it, about like, oh, are you grumpy today? Oh, I'll talk to you later, this sort of attitude. Because we used to be like that. I used to be so snap happy. And if I was tired, she's gone. Like, see you next week, Chloe. Which now I'm like, wow, that is huge boundaries. And I love that for her, the way that she was able to set those boundaries with me. But in that instance, I was so upset because I realized that she had that perception of me. And unless I said something to her, she would carry it on, not knowing that I was actually trying to be better. Because a lot of times we do this work sort of undercover, don't we? We do the little bits of YouTube and mindset underground a little bit. And so I just said to her, look, I am trying to be better. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thank you for supporting me, but I'm trying. So can we please stop talking about this? Can you help me by not bringing that up and help me move forward? And I tell you what, I was crying. Don't cry often. And that day, our whole dynamic changed. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Similar conversation happened with my dad, and another conversation happened very similar but different after a medicine experience, where people were expecting me to be the same as I had been, and I was all in my own space, happy, content, but not who they thought I was. And that created this weird, they wanted me to be who I was, and it made them uncomfortable, or maybe I was uncomfortable, who knows, maybe I was projecting it. And so there was this little bit of energy clash. And my dear friend who works in kinesiology and energy work, she said, Chloe, allow yourself to be who you be today. And if they can't accept that, then maybe they're not your people. Let that land for a second. It's profound.
Oh, there's so much in this. And I'm, what was really landing with me as you're saying that is this full on compassion and just opening and awareness that, for others that we interact with, your stories are so beautiful, and just acknowledging, the transformations that you've been through, and that owning that and making that declaration. And it's that ability for us to be able to offer that to others as well, and to not expect or assume that they are a certain way, and to really give everyone that grace, which is that's really, I love that because it's like, we do just sort of put people in boxes sometimes and expect them that they're never going to change. And how can they actually start to show that they've changed if all we see is who they were? So there just is this really beautiful curiosity, I think, that comes from that. And yeah, like you talked about communication and our ability to express, ourselves within that, but to also be able to listen.
Listen to understand. Yeah, understand what they're trying to say, because usually sometimes what they're speaking is not what they're feeling. Sometimes they just don't know how to be vulnerable.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we don't learn how to communicate. That's not, I think anyone that is interested in personal development, taking courses and books, it's something that I think most of us that are coaches are obsessed with, right? And learning that, but it is something that, I think it would be so beautiful if this was something that was taught, at an early age, taught in schools, for us to really be able to learn these skills so that we can really support one another and learn how to be vulnerable and learn how to express and ask for support when we need it. It's like so many people are feeling so isolated and alone because it's just something that, they didn't receive growing up. And so, again, just to bring back, this book that we're writing, it's just like this really beautiful, in so many ways, it's a beacon of hope because of the messages within the book, but because of what it represents, because of the possibilities that come out of it. There's just so many incredible things. So it just really fully does represent what we're talking about.
Yeah. And I love that all these women are on their own journeys. Some are, I don't know, in their 50s, would you say? Some are in their 20s, and we've got everything in between. Yeah. And these are all just women who have noticed that moment in their life where there's something's clicked, really. Something's changed for them to go, hello, there's more to this life than what I know, this bubble. And that is, I just want to speak to that for a moment. because we only know what we know. And how amazing could it be if, what are the possibilities? I love that. Choosing a life of possibilities. This is what the whole dreaming, the whole visions, the whole manifestation, that's what got me interested. I didn't know how to get there. I just knew that if I kept thinking about it, if I kept learning and growing and be a better version of myself, then maybe the right things would come to me. And then I would, my bubble, instead of it being country town traveler, I could then be something more.
Mhm.
But that just took the choosing. Has there been many things in your life where you've been, just choosing new things? I know for me, I travel a lot. I don't know sort of about your story. Is there things that really help you pivot?
Oh yeah, I mean, a little bit of traveling, but it's really just, I've always been someone that loves that feeling of just being alive, right? Like, and it's usually those moments where we take a risk, where we do something that's a little bit scary, or that we put ourselves out there. And even though, I mean, one of my big things that I have overcome was just being, to share my voice, to speak publicly, all of those things, because I really battled with extreme shyness for most of my life. And just another parallel example of that, I used to be afraid to fly, but I would still fly. Like, I would force myself to get on that plane and go somewhere, even though I was terrified. So it's like, I think that's the thing, is just knowing that, we have our comfort zones, we have our bubble, and we can choose to stay there. But there's so many incredible things to experience in this life. And I love when you talk about possibility, right? Like, it's endless, it's limitless. And at the same time, to get there, we are going to need to make that choice to maybe be a little bit uncomfortable, to maybe feel some fear, some just those feelings, the risk of falling on your face, right? Like, all of those things. But if we don't, life could be pretty boring. Life could be, and I also think, like, it can be painful to stay the same as
Oh
well,
yeah.
especially
Because
when you
then
have dreams. Yeah.
yeah, we just create that manifestation of dis-ease in the body, which is stored energy that is stagnant in your body because you're not doing anything, you're not challenging yourself, you're not inspired, you're not dancing. So your body is literally sitting on the couch eating rubbish food. No wonder why there's so many people looking for pills. And I'm a big anti-pharma, because not that I don't believe that it helps a lot of people. I do believe that. But I also believe that there's a lot of people that rely on it and they don't know how to move their body. And there's some people that do move their body in the form of gym, which I then find is almost like the opposite, because they go hardcore. And so their body is so tired and fatigued, and their mind is active and everything's going. And then at some point they hit burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So it's beautiful a topic, because it really, for me, it's about daily checking in with my body, checking in with different sensations or feelings, and actually allowing myself to see if there's a story there or something there for me to work through so that I can be happier.
Yeah.
Do you find that? Do you know much about, like, emotions stored in the body and how they intertwine with stories and beliefs? Is that
yeah, that's been something, it's been such a fascination for me in so many different ways. There's this really beautiful book that I read at some point in my early career called The Heart's Code. I don't know if you ever read that book.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, and so this is like a whole, I mean, this could take us down a really interesting rabbit hole, but it was about transplant recipients and how they actually can take on the memories and experiences of the person that they received the heart from, or whatever, right? So it really does show and represent how much memory is actually held in our body, not just in our brains. And so this is, a whole line of research and this beautiful book called The Heart's Code that I fell in love with. But also, in so much of the work that I do, it's really helping to support people through, trauma, PTSD, anything that has happened to them that really, has kept them stuck, or that they've actually buried, right? Like that's something that I really talk about a lot, is how we can suppress this, the things that we don't want to look at, and they get buried, and it can impact our health and everything. So yes, absolutely. It's just something, I just think it's so fascinating, and our bodies are incredible. There's been moments in my journey where I have encountered things that I've suppressed. I've encountered things that I've walled off. And what's so beautiful about actually, it takes courage to go there. It takes courage to look at that. But then you realize that you've also walled off gems. Like you've walled off. I just remember this one moment when I went through this, and it was actually the death of a friend. And like I was thinking back to a time where we really spent a lot of time together, and it wasn't a time where I was very happy. And so unfortunately, I had buried all of that, but her death brought it all back. And so of course there's the trauma of that, and the trauma of remembering, a time in my life when I was really struggling. But I just had this image in my mind of like discovering this cavern of, I don't know if you ever watched the movie Goonies, where it's like this underground cavern of glittering jewels, and it's like a pirate's treasure, right? Like that's what I felt like, because once I finally sat with the discomfort of what was going on in my life, and I started processing it using the tools that I know now. Back then I didn't. I mean, so many young people just don't have the tools to really work through the stuff that happens, the traumas. I think about, the kids and what they're going through now, right? Like there's just so much of a need for this information. But what came after was all of these other beautiful memories of things that we kind of suppress the good stuff at the same time when we do that. So it's just really beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world to allow our emotions to be released, right? It's like crying is a beautiful thing. It's release. It's finally really expressing the emotions that maybe we've held on to for such a long time. So yeah.
I instantly just thought of our class this morning, where we had probably 15 women and one male, and we were dancing, and the topic was light. How do you feel light in your body? And so we're dancing and whatever, and then when we're finished, we tuned in, and the guy stepped up and shared, and he said, I cried the whole time. And so he shared into that, and he said that he is the male of the family. He's got to be strong. He's got to have a strong face. He's got to be present. And for him to be able to be all light and play was so profoundly rewarding. He was happy to be crying. He was happy to be feeling this and to be supported to go through that process. And then the opposite side of that is when he shared with us, every single woman there, hands on their heart, giving this guy so much love. And the facilitator was asking, like, women, how do you feel about this? And all the women are just praising him, because it is so beautiful for women to see men be vulnerable. And I think that's the shift that's happening in our generation. Because I know for sure my father, my grandparents, no way would they cry, especially in front of a group of women. No way. That's a big change that's coming forward, and let's celebrate that. Let's actually celebrate the feminine side, because we all do have masculine and feminine. Females have it and men have it. And when we can express both of it, when we women can be in our power of, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm creating, let's go, but also in the flow. And same with males, when males can be in their creation, but also help out in the kitchen and help out, support, and be loving and nurturing, then we actually feel whole. We feel like we are doing our part, and we're not almost shutting off half of our identity.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what, it's quite rigid, right? Like it's just such a, it's a trap. And I think it is something that, even just for, I get into this a little bit in my chapter, actually. I'm glad you brought it up because it's like, my fierce experience was towards a man, and this whole journey as well of just really our relations, right, between men and women, and all of the challenges that we've seen and experienced. And I really see such hope for us to, just really, acknowledging our differences and celebrating our differences, but also really, as you say, opening up our ability to really fully communicate and understand one another and accept one another, and the trauma that, has come from this massive divide. It's just so beautiful to start to see those barriers coming down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to speak to that boundaries are healthy. And just if there's an instance where you're watching this and you're feeling like, oh, I'm in a relationship with someone who's very masculine, very direct, rude, blunt, all of the things, or a female that's very whatever, that is unhealthy. Both can be unhealthy. If you're in that environment and you don't feel like you can have these open, vulnerable conversations, it's okay for you to step back or step out of that bubble. And that doesn't mean that that's not being compassionate. Sometimes you taking that step out of that dynamic is actually the thing that gets them to wake up. Otherwise, sometimes you're just allowing them. You just stay there and you say, this is all fine, it's fine. You've got bruises, you've been like, feel so suppressed, all these things. You're just allowing him or her to treating you that way. So yes, we talk a lot about compassion and love, but compassion and love is always you first. And then when you step out and you start doing you, maybe you're the permission slip for them to actually wake up, and maybe they just witness you. Maybe you create and manifest someone even more amazing into your life. I really just want to plant that as well.
I love that. So, so true. Yeah, really. I love talking to you, Chloe. Like I feel like we could like talk for hours about all of this, because I almost started up on a whole other topic, and just like sparked by what you said.
We've got time if you want to dive in.
Yeah, well, I just really connect to that, and just to kind of again bring this around, like I feel like we're just sort of all of these full circle moments, but really that was how I experienced the first part of my life, just really accepting treatment that was not okay, but not knowing how to step back from it, not knowing when to say no, or when to not really literally zero boundaries, right? Like it was, fully will acknowledge that this was a codependent experience that I came from in my early years. And so, just to really have that reminder of what of how important it is to really put yourself first, right? And to really, have that beautiful amount of respect and reverence for yourself, and to hold yourself. I mean, that's where the why the queen archetype is such a big part of the work that I do. I've got crowns all over the place. Like it really is a reminder of really just treating ourselves like royalty, and honoring ourselves and acknowledging our worth and carrying ourselves in that way.
Yes. Yeah. Reading this morning, that if you just take a moment to think, who in your life stands out? Which people, not necessarily in your direct space, but in terms of like celebrities or names or faces, who stands out? And for me, it's like Oprah Winfrey, Adele, who else? There's so many people that you just look at them. There's athletes as well, but I don't know their exact names, so I'm not going to go down there. But you see them and you are captivated. Or fire twirlers, actually, it's super random, but fire twirlers, I look at them and I go, whoa. And this book was sharing that these people are so powerful because they own their body, and then they know that they're here for the thing. So in terms of Adele, she's in her body, she has to sing from her body, so she has to know her body. She can't be suppressed and all mopey and then let out this beautiful sound. No, she knows who she is. Beyonce, my goodness, that woman. And this is the whole the topic of owning your space.
Yeah.
Like, girls, there's this movement, Stop Sucking It In, with Rosie Reese from Perth. Shout out Rosie. She is all about yoni pleasure and body love. But she has this topic of stop sucking your stomach in. And for women, that's huge, because all of a sudden now we have a permission slip to let ourselves relax and be in our body instead of uptight, prim, proper, like, what is this rigidness? But what if we could just sit and be present and accept that this body is just ours? That is queen. That is presence for me. And then you walk down the street, and I've only experienced this with one lady, because sometimes people say it to me and I'm always like, what does that mean? And then I saw someone else. She literally, we were at a cafe queuing to get our drinks. She just walked up, got these dogs, patting with the dog, goes up to the counter, hey, can I have a coffee? Nothing not like weird or out there. She just had this presence of, I am here, this is my body, I'm excited about the day. And everyone was so captivated. That is sexy. And same with men, like, you do you, boo. Men, get out there and be proud, but also you can be proud and feminine. And we love that. That's a whole new trend and a whole other tangent, but women love men that can be balanced in the cuddles and the affection and the love and the vulnerability, and be strong and, you know, hold the fort and nurture. And this saying, tangent, my friend said, a true male, a true partner, if will support his woman in what she's doing. He said, if his partner wants a garden, he will be out there sowing the dirt to get that garden ready so that his woman can come in and do what she needs to do.
So good.
Wow. You know, like, we are creating this together.
I love that.
Is there anything else that you would like to talk to before we wrap up today?
I want to do this again. Okay, let's do it again. I feel like, you know, that everything that I really wanted to talk about and share about, we've covered. I mean, what a beautiful conversation, and just such a, and you know, that there's been some comments coming through, and we've kind of missed them, but there's all these incredible people that have been watching. So thank you to you guys who've been watching. I'll check out the comments after, but it's just, this has really been a gorgeous, like, I feel like we've covered it all. It's like even above and beyond what, you know, we kind of, what I thought we were going to talk about, which is so magical, really. I just love that, you know, when we just spark and go off on these tangents. So it's just really wonderful. And, you know, again, such a thrill and such a beautiful extension of this whole experience to have these moments like this. So thank you so much for setting this interview up and for just being so fabulous.
Taking some time, beauty. Taking some time. Look, we're all fabulous on our journeys, but it's the compassion and the love that's got me here, to tell you. Yeah. And I do share a lot about the medicine journey that I've been on to help open this up and come out of the shadow side. You know, we do have the shadow and we do have the light, and it's beautiful dance. But if we're all in the shadow, that's where the projection, the anger, the anxiety, that's where all of that resides. But when we come into the heart, out of the head, into the heart, that's where we flourish. So thank you for witnessing that in me.
So beautiful. And I'm going to be interviewing you next week, right? For Inside the Comeback Queen, for your Fierce Queen story. So I'm very excited about that. We'll need to share details on the where and when of that down the
Sure.
road.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
We do get to do it again next week. It's already set up.
it's already done. Would you
Yeah.
like to share where everyone can find you? And then I'll drop in as well.
Yeah. Oh, you just like social media stuff, you mean?
Yeah, just so I can share it on my, my people can come to you and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know if I shared my name. I'm Chelsea Frederick, and oh gosh, Chelsea.Frederick on Instagram. And my group on Facebook is called The Comeback Queen. That's one of my favorite places to hang out. It's a beautiful community that I love so much. And we just celebrate one another. We cheer each other on. We straighten each other's crowns. And I actually started to welcome men into the group, which is amazing as well, because, just through this interview series, it's been, just for the men to come in and also support the women that I've interviewed on this. So it's been really wonderful to just have this group be very open and inclusive to whoever wants to join. So that's me. I'm currently building my website. It's chelseafrederickcoaching.com. And my goal is to have it ready by Friday. So
Let's see.
Yeah. How about
Everything.
you? Can you share your details too?
Yeah, so my name is Chloe Horrex, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram is my places. Usually Instagram, to be fair. I am over there daily on the stories. I share all the things that I'm doing with dance, with Reset with Chloe, and leaning more into one-on-one coaching now with all the magic that I am sharing and taking people through that journey, because really I've been really chewing with this cookie cutter mindset of coaching, and it's so not like that. You've got to be really particular with each individual and where they're at. So either place. And on Facebook, if you want to come into our group, it's a new baby group. It's Choosing a Life of Possibilities, and that's where we'll be streaming all of our book release interview series into as well, to really amp up that energy and support everyone with this book release this week. Yeah, so crazy. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, everyone who's supporting us and watching as well. And of course, Chelsea, thank you for your time. I hope you sleep well tonight, and I'll see you next week.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.